classified as a first felony offender. Offense, carnal knowledge of a juvenile. Sentencing date, March 17, 2014. Revoked on July 21st, 2016. Sentenced to a total of 10 years. Parole date, May 11th, 2019. Good time, not eligible. Full term, January 12th, 2026. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Marabella.
Thank you very much. Mr. Perez, my name is Tony Marabella. Your case was assigned to me, so I'll begin the interview. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Perez, how old are you, sir?
I'm 34.
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
6 years.
All right. Now, I understand you're in prison because your probation was revoked. Tell me about the crime itself, the crime for which that you're actually in prison, carnal knowledge of a juvenile. Tell me what happened.
I'll tell you everything. The actual crime happened in 2008.
Okay.
But I was convicted in 2014.
Okay. I read all of that. I just want you to tell me what you did.
All right. One night I took ecstasy for the first time. No lie. I was having fun for the first time in years because I grew up in St. Bernard Parish. 2005, Katrina came in, so I was devastated. Katrina rebuilt.
Just tell me what you did.
I had sex with a 16-year-old. I was 21, had sex with a 16-year-old.
All right. Now, what did you do to violate your parole, your probation that got you put back in prison for 10 years?
I was smoking medical marijuana before I was convicted of the charge. The judge, the district attorney knew before I even took the plea deal. They refused to listen to any knowledge of hemp, CBD oil. I'm in jail for CBD oil.
Right, you violated your probation by continuing to use drugs?
CBD, sir. CBD.
I'm not going to argue legally with you. The judge put you in jail because you violated your parole. You were using drugs that weren't allowed on your probation. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, at the time. Yes, sir.
Now tell me what you've done since you've been in prison. What programs have you taken?
Well, from 2016 all the way to 2019, I was shipped to Plaquemines Parish Detention Center. I had no programs. I came up parole in 2019. I got denied parole. After I got denied parole, Plaquemines Parish Detention Center sent me to Winfield. Winfield shut down because they went to immigration. After Winfield, I went to Rayville. Richland, all the way to the top, almost died in the north. I was in lockdown. I refused to leave lockdown. I wrote to the parole.
What programs have you taken? You can tell me why you haven't taken whatever you've taken.
Anger management, the sex offender program.
What sex offender programs have you taken?
Well, here's the problem. It's hard because since I came to Hunts, everything shut down.
Mr. Perez, we'll worry about how hard it is. What sex offender programs have you taken? You said you took sex offender programs. I show you may have taken one of the 4 phases. How much have you done?
I've taken 2 phases, sir, because my social worker refuses to give me any certificates. I cannot get no help. Once again, y'all is telling me try to do something, I cannot get help. I'm sorry, I can't get help from nobody. I'm sorry, I can't get help from nobody.
You gonna calm down, okay?
Well, I'm being honest.
Answer his question.
Mr. Perez, are you on any kind of medication?
No, I'm just nervous right now because it seems that everything's my fault, but it's not my fault.
Mr. Perez, you had sex with a 16-year-old girl. You pled guilty to carnal knowledge of a juvenile. The judge gave you probation. A 10-year sentence, he gave you probation. You violated your probation for whatever reason. You're arguing with me about how crazy the judge was for violating you.
Same
And you're in
court,
prison.
the same court allowed a teacher to have sex with 2 minors.
Mr.
And I'm not
Perez,
guilty.
Mr. Perez, that teacher isn't before this board. Why should I let you out? How have you changed since you've been in prison?
Because people learn from mistakes, Your Honor.
Well, tell me what you've learned.
I learned a lot.
Well,
Being
tell me.
away from my state, being away from my job, helping my state grow going forward instead of back. My father is a chemist. I do spray foam installation.
Mr. Perez, let
catalyst.
me ask you this question. If you are released, are you going to go back to using whatever substance it was that the judge revoked you on?
No, sir.
Why not?
No, sir. Why? Because I was young. I grew up. Being in incarceration for 6 years, or every second, every minute, every hour away from your family and away from going to a grocery store and just doing normal daily activities and losing family members, going to the grave and going back to a situation that people are no longer with me. I've learned. Trust me, I've learned 6 years.
Mr. Perez,
hard.
what substance abuse programs have you taken since you've been in prison?
I ain't got none because they won't give me
What
none.
anger management courses have you taken since you've been in prison?
One anger management. That's what the class is.
Thank you. That's all I've got. Warden, can you tell us anything about Mr. Perez?
Mr. Marabella, I'm really not familiar with Perez. I do have comments from the staff who directly, I guess you want to say, supervise him on Unit 1. He is in the dormitory Fox 1, which is one of our mental health general population dormitories. But my major and a lieutenant colonel from the unit says that he does have a positive attitude and good conduct. And I guess under the circumstances, with I guess his understanding. And I also see here, and I know you have before you also, sir, that he doesn't have any disciplinary reports. So I guess the staff that works with him does understand his temperament or his disposition with explaining himself. But that's all I have, sir.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Okay, at this time, we have a speaker here today, Miss Barbie. Mother there would like to speak. Ma'am, anything you'd like to say, go ahead and say it.
Hold on, I'm trying to figure this out. Hi. As a child, Randy was diagnosed with ADD and ADHD. He does have a learning disability, always has been. He's always that one child that I've always had to worry about. And, you know, do I think he needs to come home? Absolutely. I think he's learned. Randy's always had a big heart that would help anybody out. Open doors for elderly. I mean, he just went way beyond the call of duty of volunteering. And my husband's going blonde 6 years later. You know, I'm trying to run the business. My son is, my youngest one's military/police. My other son's trying to help me with the business. But, you know, we're just all praying that it's been 6 years and we're just all praying that he can come home and be part of the family. You know, it's been tough because he's been there 6 years. And like he said, he's been from pillar to post, pillar to post, pillar to post. And finally he made it to Hunts. And then I was finally able to go see him on an emergency because I didn't see him for 5 years. And then COVID hit. And then, you know, we seem to be back to square one again.
Right.
And, you know, I live in one of the prestige neighborhoods in New Orleans, which is Lakeview. And, we're just all ready for Randy to come home. It's been 6 hard years without my son, and his dad's gone blonde, like I said, and we own an insulation company, and, you know, we're just all praying he comes home.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I don't know how to work this.
Okay, you can go ahead and mute your mic there, Ms. Brandy. And at this time, Mr. Randy Myers will be speaking.
Good afternoon, Randy Myers, Assistant DA Jefferson Parish. We're opposed at this time to Mr. Perez's request. apologize for a mistake I made earlier with a note I had about sex offender treatment. So I went back and double checked this file, make sure I didn't make the same mistake. The progress report indicates he needs anger management, substance abuse treatment, sex offender treatment, 12 steps, 100 hours. The report indicates he was removed from Cage Your Rage. And the record also shows that he did take sex offender phase 1. However, he missed a meeting with the psychiatrist in January of 2022 with regard to the sex offender treatment. He was revoked. I just pulled it up and looked at the record. He was arrested for possession of marijuana and possession of drug paraphernalia, which was the basis for the revocation. He needs some additional programming in order to be prepared to be released from prison. We think he needs to be denied today until he can take and complete sufficient programming. Thank you.
This is crazy.
Okay, at this time, Mr. Perez, anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
Everything I've said, yeah, all of y'all, I've been right 100%. Hemp and marijuana is medicine, and LSU and Southern University is growing and it's helping people. And it's proven fact that it's helping people during the COVID-19. Hemp, the Constitution is written on hemp. Louisiana Constitution is written on
Okay, we're
hemp.
not talking about hemp.
Yes,
talking
because you keep saying my probation was revoked for marijuana. I keep telling you it's hemp. CBD oil,
Correct.
CBD oil. I'm just saying.
Okay,
I'm the first time offender.
At this time, the board will be voting. Ms. Tony Marabella will be voting at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Perez, in interviewing you and talking with you, it's clear to me that, number one, you don't accept responsibility for what you did. Your writings say you're being unconstitutionally held in prison. You're legally in prison. You're not accepting responsibility for that. Your documents, our documents clearly show that our evaluation clearly shows that you need anger management programs, substance abuse treatment, sex offender treatment, vocational skills treatment, and some knowledge about the 12-step program. It sounds to me that you just refuse to take those things.
How can I when I'm locked down? I'm in a dorm 24/7, sir. I'm in a dorm 24/7.
My vote today is going to be to deny your parole.
They don't give me the material.
Mr. Marabella, just go ahead and vote.
I voted to deny his parole.
Okay, Ms. Jackson.
All right. Likewise, my vote is to deny. It's obvious that Mr. Perez has some serious mental health issues that really need to be addressed. And I hope his family will get him that help when he's released. But my vote today is to deny.
Okay. At this time, I vote to deny on the same conditions. Thank y'all very much.
Oh my gosh. And when you think you have seen it all, this one, we've seen a few that have gone sideways, but absolutely this one takes the cake. Hey, if there's any program that this dude needs, it is anger management. I mean, Mr. Marabella hit it on the head when he went in there and said what he said. I was like, couldn't have said it better. He's like, you're in prison for having sex with a 16-year-old girl. You pled guilty to carnal knowledge of a juvenile, and the judge gave you probation. I don't feel bad for him. The judge gave him probation. He didn't have to spend 1 day locked up in prison. And then he goes on this thing about how it's hemp and the Constitution's written on him. Who cares? He's imagine he's probably like one of those. What's it called? Now it's slipping my mind. Sovereign citizen. Wouldn't surprise me. And as far as I know, CBD won't show up in a test. More like if you're taking CBD that contains strong levels of THC, it would. And like, frankly, that's you are sitting on a 10-year sentence. You just don't do it. Just don't do anything that is going to revoke what the judge gave you, which is a gift. You're 21 years old, you're on MDMA, maybe you think she's 18, you end up in the position, maybe I could try to feel like, okay, he's not like a classic roach, right? Like he doesn't like children. He's just an idiot. He's who should be punished, but it's not the same. I don't have the same rage or anger for him, right? But he's like Miss Jackson said, he needs help. Maybe he shouldn't be in prison. Maybe he should be in a psych ward. I mean, there's something clearly very wrong with him. Is it just ADHD or ADD? Or probably something more? I don't know. But I mean, he's doing everything that he possibly can to make sure that he stays locked up for his entire sentence. Man, the ADA Randy is there saying what he needs, and he's like, no, I don't. And he goes on a rampage about, I mean, just these rants. It was cringeworthy, and I'm even surprised the board was taking as much as vid as they did. And when I saw the guards come up behind him, I was like, oh yeah, they got the signal to take him. This isn't going to end well. And it's just, should I feel empathy? Should I feel sad that he's, I think, again, like what Mr. Marabella said, you can't, he was given a gift in 10 years probation. He violated it. And now again, he's just going on and on about how he's wrongfully locked up, and he was given a gift. He talks about the teacher getting less time, and I believe him about that. Yeah, the courts are messed up. Judges do crazy things, but I wouldn't be surprised if he showed up to his violation hearing in front of the judge and probably didn't listen to his court-appointed attorney, or whatever attorney was probably yelling at the judge, and the judge said, forget it, done. You don't get extra gifts for being really just. And he's not taking accountability. He was 21. She was 16. Man, but I don't have any more information to share with you on this. But I do thank you, Richard, for recommending it. Hey, wait, I take a step back. I take it back. This dude is actually, he is. So Richard did find information. I'm gonna paraphrase it for you, but now they arrested him for something he had done 5 years previously. So he thought got away with it scot-free. And it occurred in the summer of 2008. And he was an acquaintance of the victim. He knew how old she was. This wasn't like, I created this scenario for him that was making it, he knew who she was. He knew how old she was. And it happened as an assault, a full-on assault. I mean, she went to the detectives 5 years later and said, this is what happened to me. This wasn't like, and she said that it occurred in his bedroom at his home. He had asked the girl into his room to get something. Then he closed the door and locked it. He then forced himself on her, removing her clothing, and forced himself on her. She said that she told authorities she was punching him and was yelling at him to get off of her. And he only stopped when the telephone rang. And then she went and told her grandparents about it, but she did not report it to the police until 2010. When the detective tried to interview him in 2010, he left town. And when he returned to town, he was questioned and then arrested and booked. And so thank you, Richard, actually, for finding this. Yeah, this was no, he made it out to be like a party and he was, and no, this was full on. Oh, there was Katrina and he was dressed and he took Eve for the first time and he full on assaulted this young little girl. And the judge still gave him probation. Here's something else Richard found. He sued the prison because he was attacked and almost had his life taken, he's claiming. He alleges that on June 23rd, 2019, 8 or more inmates attacked him in his dormitory and almost stabbed him to unalive him. The plaintiff suffered cracked teeth, excessive trauma, post-traumatic stress, and lifelong damage to the endocannabinoid system. ECS, a vast body-wide network of trillions of cannabinoid receptors. This is something like that I feel he would talk about. Plaintiff recounts a series of other attacks he was not involved in, but which, from what he appears to allege, demonstrate that the defendants were aware of general danger in the dormitory. He alleges that staff never searched the dormitory for weapons, and that inmates were... So you could tell he's definitely not likable, right? And inmates had it in for him. And the staff wouldn't like him if he's suing them. He alleges that inmates at RPDC were at risk of being stabbed because of short hands with staff and laziness of RPD Scott and Shaw. Wow, he actually calls out a specific name. This guy knows how to make friends in prison. That's for sure. You know who I do feel bad for? I feel bad for his mother. That's who I have empathy for, his poor mom. On June 24, 2019, plaintiff was placed in lockdown and then in a holding tank where he was intermittently deprived of showers, use of a telephone, outgoing mail, use of medical staff. So let's see. He writes each thing, what's wrong with him, in like I wonder what the judge wrote. A complaint fails to state a claim of relief. Look how many plaintiffs he named. The Richland Parish Detention Center. Louisiana Department of Public Safety, and there was a third, I think. Plaintiff seeks parole, but he does not explain why. This request for relief is unaccompanied by any claim or allegation, entirely conclusionary. According to the court, should deny this request. It's I guess I'm not going to read each reason, but the court actually went through and declined each one. The guy is like own worst enemy. He kind of reminds me of the other fellow that we covered who was yelling that he was illegally detained, and then he started to threaten that he would call the police on the parole board, and he was sitting in the same seat. I'm glad Richard found that information. You know, he full on assaulted that young girl, 16-year-old girl, and now he's sitting here again, not taking any accountability and just yelling at the world that's against him. And again, I don't feel bad for him. With that, I'll let you go.